I'd like to call the Property Service meeting to order. First, I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we're on the Mi'kmaq, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. With us tonight on Outlook or Zoom or whatever, Brian, can you hear us?
Long way to be,
Yeah. Debbie? Joel, can you hear us? Anyway, we'll get started. They can hear us, but if they want to speak, then yeah. Okay, we'll get started. Next, the approval of the agenda. Moved by Peter, second by Councilor Turner. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Count aye, nay. Motion carried. Is there any emergency resolutions? Any emergency resolutions? One more time. Any more emergency resolutions? See none? We'll move on. Was there any errors, omissions, or corrections to the minutes of January 20, 2025? Any errors or corrections or omissions? Any errors, omissions, or corrections? Councillor Dorr.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. On the minutes, it seemed like there was a duplicate of some of the accounts paid. You'll see it when we get to it, but it's on there.
Okay, so Ann will correct that. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? See nobody else. Next is correspondence. First one is from the Riverview Home Corporation for the council grant. Next is from Frank H. McDonald School for a grant for the breakfast and backpack program. Next is the Department of Public Works confirming the responsibility for removal of dead animals. And another one is from the town of Stoughton concerning the EMO letter. And the last one is from Valley View Villa, request to expand broadband. Or to expand the board, sorry. Okay, Councillor Boyles.
Yeah, no, just on the one from the Public Works confirming who looks after animals on the roads and stuff like that. There was quite a difference in some places, but I mean, I think it should be posted downstairs so that you know, people can see it when they're in, and may save a lot of confusing of who does it and when they do it.
Okay, maybe it'd be better posted on our website and then, because people coming in, they're probably not looking at the walls, and I don't know if we have much space down there for that stuff. Okay.
We can do it in both locations.
Do both
Yep.
locations? Okay, very good. Councillor Turner, you wait your turn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In regards to the board of the Valley View Villa, the articles of incorporations allow from what I understand, allow the board to make the decisions on expanding the board. I thought we were under the understanding initially that it had to come to council to be approved for changing the size of the board, but we talked to Brian. I've talked to Brian during the last meeting, and he informs me and the other councilors on the board that it's the prerogative of the board to expand the board.
Okay.
Through the articles of incorporation. That's allowed, so it doesn't have to come to council to expand the board, as far as I understand.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
just on that, you're asking for another counselor for that board, are you?
Well, it's still under review. It's still under review of
Okay.
what we're looking for.
Yeah,
So-
so you'll put it on a future agenda if you are.
Yeah, but it's the, it's the board that makes the decision. So,
Yep.
Okay, thank
Sure.
you.
Okay, Warden Parker.
Actually, Councilor Turner answered most of mine. The only thing I'm wondering about, if they decide that they do want to increase by one public member and one council member, then who makes that decision? Like the original, when we met on the organizational night, we picked everybody for the committees and whatnot, but when somebody wants to add a counselor to a committee, is that that group, or is it council as a whole, or is it the finance committee, or, I'm just wondering if we know who makes the decision as to what counselor, choosing a counselor to go on that, or how do we do that? What the process is.
Thank you. Brian had sent through an email on this, and I'm just trying to find it, so when I find it, I'll let you know. Is Brian on there?
Can you hear us, Brian?
Yep, so the board needs to change the articles of incorporation, so they would be responsible for changing the bylaws, but within those bylaws, the appointments are council appointments, so council would ultimately need to appoint the additional citizen and council rep.
Council as a whole.
Yeah.
Yes, you as a body, yeah.
Okay. Any further discussions on the correspondence? Seeing none, we'll move on. Reports not requiring motions. Director of Public Works and Development. Councillor Walls.
There it is. I got, when you're putting in, like if you approve a sewer line or a water line and we're putting them in, where does the resident have to pay from? Is it just putting it in their house, or is it from the line in?
Thank you for the question, through you, Mr. Chair. The resident would be responsible to take it from the property line into their house. The municipality would provide the service to the property line from the road.
Oh, and is there a certain cost or any of that for having that done, do you know, or?
For a sewer, it's $2,500 is the resident's cost. That can be spread over 3 years. It's typically spread over 3 years.
What about water?
It's $1,600.
1,600. Also the, trying to think of the question that they asked me. Oh yeah, what's going on with the Evan McDonald Road out that way and that? Did we get anything back or what's happening?
Yeah, thank you again, through you, Mr. Chair. We got survey results back. So we sent around a public survey there before Christmas. We got results back. They're more favorable in sort of the Linusy end as opposed to the Evan McDonald Road end, because that's the way we would have to extend it. So we'll take that information and include it for consideration, I guess, in one of the upcoming capital budgets. Feedback was mixed, though. Not everybody seems to want it. So, and we do have a much better idea of unit costs after having tendered the McConnellsbrook Colburn water system. So we'll have a better handle on what actual construction cost estimates will be for that.
Some of them are saying they never received anything. Like Marina Spahagan said, he never received anything. You know, a few of the other ones out there are saying, I'm just wondering, is the ones that didn't, you know, reply that we sent to, is there any way that we could have letters that we could just, like, I don't mind hand delivering them to them and then it's done. So if we knew the ones that never replied, if we could get a a letter where I just hand deliver them to them, and then we know they got them.
Yeah, thanks again. Maybe we can meet up sometime this week or have a phone call and see who you're hearing from, and I can show you who we have heard from, and we can go from there. But we could certainly send a follow-up letter out. Yeah. Yep.
Just
Thank
to
you.
clarify something, Councillor Boyle, it's that 2,500 and 1,600 is what they pay the municipality? Then it's up to them to pay a contractor to take it from the right-of-way into the house. So there's, okay? Councillor McKeel.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I just have two questions for you, Logan. Back here. So number 18, you met with the town of New Glasgow, town of Westville, regarding to review existing efforts and plans to the ongoing water quality improvement. So can you expand on that a little bit, please?
Yes, thank you for the question. Again, through you, Mr. Chair. We've been meeting with the town of Westville and the town of New Glasgow, as well as the Nova Scotia Department of Environment, to look at improving THM levels, which is a water quality measure that we all measure for. What we found was that different municipalities were testing in different ways. One of the towns was testing in an unapproved way compared to the provincial standard test. So we're just trying to get a handle of what those THM levels are throughout the system, because it's a shared system overall between the towns and ourselves. So water quality is generally pretty good, perfectly good. It's just in the summer months, THMs seem to rise. And we had a spike in THMs a couple of years ago when the Legionnaire's disease outbreak had happened at Glenhaven Hospital. That's what sort of prompted this. So since then, we've been working with those towns and the provincial department to try to make sure that we're all communicating with one
So you're just
another.
trying to streamline the process?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, thank you. My second question is number 22. You met with Wade Thibault and Frank McFarland regarding industrial services in the municipality. Can you also expand on that a bit, please?
Yeah, certainly. Thanks again through you, Mr. Chair. I met with Frank McFarland from New Scotland there a week prior to my meeting with Wade, looking at development already going on and what needs potentially could be for industrial applications. We went through the land use bylaw as well, looking at areas that we focused on for industrial development. And then with Wade as well, trying to get an idea of what he's hearing from the business community, particularly around three-phase power extension out in certain areas of the county to support additional industrial development. So it's all in efforts to try to see what areas make sense for industrial development, if they line up well with our land use plan based on some information we're receiving, and that all seems pretty favorable. Particularly areas being discussed are those sort of between Michelin and the pulp mill.
Okay. So there's, I guess, is it because, is interest kind of prompting those questions, or is it because we want to be ready so that if there are questions arise from the business community that we're able to answer those?
Both. There's one particular business, decent-sized business, that's looking to expand their operations, and they're the ones that are really pushing for that three-phase power. And then additional inquiries that are constantly made, and some big ones recently with Wade at the Pictou County Partnership has sort of prompted looking at it from a planning perspective as well. So both from an immediate need and request to look at this, and then also from a longer-term planning perspective.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Warden Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of questions. Number 6, the Green Hill Estate subdivision. This one seems to bounce back and forth constantly between the developer and here and the lawyer, and doesn't seem to be getting, some of the others have gotten off the ground anyway, but this one doesn't seem to be getting there. Is there any particular problem or anything that we can do to get that one moving?
Thanks for the question, and again through you, Mr. Chair. I actually met with the surveyor for that project today to talk about it. We have a couple minor, we received the draft servicing agreement back from the developer's lawyer there about a week and a half or so, maybe 2 weeks ago, something like that. So now we're reviewing it and making some minor adjustments, but we're basically at that servicing agreement stage. I've met with our development officer multiple times too to kind of go through where we're at. All the documents are in, so now we'll be finalizing the servicing agreement, and we'll finally put this one to bed as well. But everything's there except for this servicing agreement. I expect to have those changes made to that draft this week and to have that back in front of both their lawyer and our lawyer to confirm, and hopefully that'll be the end of it, and we'll have that one approved as well.
Okay, thank you. And the other is, where is it, number 20? Alma chlorination station damage. Can you expand on that a little, just as to what the damage was? And is that water chlorinated in Alma, or it's not chlorinated before it comes out to start with? Or it's chlorinated there? I didn't understand that part.
Yeah, thanks again through you, Mr. Chair. That station, the purpose of that station is to inject chlorine into the water that we receive from Westville. So it's already been chlorinated at the New Glasgow Treatment Center.
That's what I thought.
And so we're just injecting. We don't do any actual treatment under our approval from the Nova Scotia Department of Environment, but we are allowed to inject chlorine. Kind of comes back to that THM thing that we just talked about too. But so that's where we inject chlorine to make sure that we have good chlorine levels throughout the entire system. So what happened there was that we received a call from Westville saying that our pressure gauge was showing no pressure there. So we went out and discovered that somehow the pipes had frozen on the inside. We go in there and the town of Westville goes in there. We wonder if maybe the door had been left open and some cold air got in and it busted up some of the instruments there. So we're working to repair that instrumentation, and everything's back online, though we sort of patched it up, and now we're getting the final permanent repair products here anytime now, just to make the final repairs.
If I might have one follow-up, Mr. Chair?
One more and that's it.
One more and that's it. Is there any danger to that water then when it's not getting chlorinated? I know I hear down the city and stuff where, if something doesn't get chlorinated, you got to boil the water for 3 days. Is there any danger if that's where you're adding the extra chlorine?
No, thanks for the question. Again, it's funny, it comes back to that THM question that we had. Some of the debate at those meetings with the town of Westville and town of New Glasgow and the province is about saying maybe we don't need to be chlorinating much there at all because our chlorine levels are generally pretty good, and our increasing chlorine levels tends to increase your THM levels. So we did all of our tests throughout that week. We had no anomalies in our standard testing results, so there was no danger to the public there. We're confident in that. But yeah, if anything, we're talking about possibly chlorinating a little bit less just to try to get those THMs down a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Councillor Wadden. Yeah, your mic is off there, Councillor Wadden.
Oh, sorry. You keep cutting out, sir. I missed you when you're calling me. Sorry about that. Just a quick question for Logan. Have you heard any update from legal with the Chance Harbor subdivision?
Thanks for the question again through you, Mr. Chair. We haven't heard any additional update yet. We've reached back out to the lawyer. I think the servicing agreement is looking pretty good compared to what we had previously. It's sort of an extension upon another servicing agreement that we had been happy with before Christmas. So I think we're just about there on that one as well. We had notified the applicant that we had been waiting on some additional items from them. They've provided those, so we're going to keep trying to get that servicing agreement done until that one's all settled as well. But yeah, and we'll keep in regular contact with that applicant as well, just to let them know where they're at in the process going forward as well.
But they have submitted all the papers they need to submit to this point. They're just waiting for legal, is that correct?
Yeah, that's where we're at this point. Yeah, we had a couple of small additional items that we needed from them a couple of weeks ago after Christmas as well, and those have since come in. So we're looking good there and hoping to finalize that servicing agreement, have that one done.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Councillor Turner.
The warden asked my question.
Okay. Deputy Warden.
Logan, the number 15, the Scottsburn treatment, or not the treatment plant, the pumping station, that damage, is that getting any close to be resolved with the insurance company? Any closer?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Again, through you, Mr. Chair. I have some additional documents I need to pull from that this month, so I'm working on that this week and trying to get that one tidied up as well. We've had some correspondence with the insurance adjuster, so just about what they need from us. So hoping to get that to them this week and have that one settled before the 1 year mark. Yeah, thanks.
Councillor Bailey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Logan, I know this one's not on your report yet, but have you heard anything back from TIR on the possibility of an extension from for the sidewalks out in River John? I'm well aware that they're a long ways down the road, but this is the first hurdle, I guess.
No, thanks. It's a good question. Through you, Mr. Chair. I did follow up with them to see where we were at after sending that request, and they were flipping it off to somebody else in their office. So I'm going to follow up with them again as well. We've reviewed it, our GIS technician and I, 2 weeks ago as well. So we're going to try to hear back from the Bible Hill office on that. We had sent it to the Tattamagush people, and they promptly responded to us and said that it should be going down to Bible Hill. So we'll be back in touch with them, and we'll keep you in the loop too, and let you know. Thanks. Yep.
Okay, seeing no more questions, we'll move on. Development Officers Report. Any questions? Seeing none. Emergency Services. Councillor Boyles.
Yeah, I mean, some time ago, when you used to give us the heart things to put on the wall and everything, you were going to come around and show us how to use them. Ours are still sitting there with, and we have a lot of older people that come to it, and I guess it doesn't matter, anybody can have a heart attack, but I was just wondering, is there any look out to get that done?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Councillor Boyle. So there is, we're just working on finishing this grant. It's done the end of this month. So once the grant is complete, I'm going to start the process of ensuring everybody has everything that they need and then performing some of that training. We did do, I believe, 2 sessions already of training on the AED system. So we'll reach out to you soon to set up a training time. Yeah.
Okay. Warden Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When we were, the Climate Change Action Committee was in Little Harbor one evening doing the presentation, there was a request from some of the folks that were there to have you, Evan, I think, meet with some of them to look at possible plans in case there was ever a fire down in that area. I'm wondering if they ever contacted you or if arrangements have been made for you to meet with them or have already happened?
Sure. Thank you for the question. So they did reach out to both myself and DNR for a presentation, and so we're just waiting on the availability from the DNR fire prevention officer, who's going to come and do a Fire Smart presentation as part of the community engagement session. So I expect to hear from him this week on his availability.
Okay, because it might be something that other areas might be interested too. We'll see how it goes.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Seeing no more questions, move on to the Fire Inspector's report. No questions, okay. Next is the bylaw. Evan, you want to speak on this?
Yes, thank you very much. Just really quick, you may notice that there's a change in this report. It looks a little bit different from past reports and looks very similar to Jason LaGreca's reports that he submits. That is due to the fact that we've put Anne, our bylaw enforcement officer, on a new system that she does orders and tracks her cases and things like that that didn't exist here in the past. So it is a very, very rudimentary report as her first one, and it's going to grow out similar to how Jason says to get back to that level of information that council's looking for. I just wanted to touch on that because I know it's a difference in the package. Thank you.
Okay, is there any questions on that report? Seeing none, move on. Business items that require action. First is the bulky item pickup. Council to consider if it is interested in more regular bulky item curbside pickup for residents. Warden Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The information I received from our CAO was that, I don't know if all the towns or most of them were not interested in going with this bulky item pickup. And we were told at the mayors and wardens meeting that everybody had to join in order for it to work. So I don't, perhaps Brian can expand on that. Is he trying to get in there?
You want to speak on that, Brian?
Yeah, so I don't have a full count on all the towns. The town of Stellarton was a no, for sure, at its committee of the whole. So the bulky item pickup, as the warden mentioned last month, was an optional item that was put into the new contract. The cost was $1.25 per household, plus weight. I think if you look at our voucher program, which is pushing 200,000, that's probably your cost of your weight. And it really contrasts with your voucher program to some degree. Like your voucher program, we're saying we can't pick that curbside, but we'll allow you to take it to the landfill, where this is, we'll pick it up at curbside, right? So it really goes against that program, or kind of butts heads with it. So I'm not sure you maintain both, because it would become rather cumbersome, I think, to administer from our standpoint. And the way the program is working, so on collection day, they would identify if you had something out, and then they would come back at a later date to pick it up. So it wouldn't necessarily be that day, it could be the day after, type thing. So the towns looked at that and said, we don't want stuff sitting curbside for extended periods of time.
Okay. Warden?
Up there, I just didn't want us to waste a lot of time discussing it if it only goes if everybody agrees, and we already know at least one town. I don't think New Glasgow was high on it for that reason that our CAO mentioned. They don't want a couch here and a dishwasher here and everything sitting around maybe for 2 or 3 days around town type of thing. And so without everybody being in, Earl said it was a no-go for you.
Do you want to make a motion? We don't.
Do we need a motion if we're not going to do it?
I don't think you need a motion
Don't need
if
it?
you're not doing it.
Okay.
You can receive it for information purposes, I guess, but.
Okay. Councillor Bailey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So what was the reasoning that they all 5 had to go, or 5 or 6, all 6 had to go for it? Was it to keep the cost down, or was it just, if we went on our own, I guess, would we see an increased cost of that, what'd you say, $1.25 a pound, or however what it was?
Per household.
Per household, yeah. Yeah, it's $1.25 per household. I'm not entirely sure why it was an all or nothing proposal. That's the way it was explained at shared services, is that it was a provisional item put in for the entire system, not individual units. That doesn't really answer your question, but I don't really know the answer to your question, so.
Maybe it had to do with staffing in a new vehicle or something like that too. Probably. They probably, in order to make it work, right?
Yeah, it is different equipment than the normal garbage truck, and compost and recycling truck, so it was additional equipment, so there could be
You wanna just receive this as for information purposes, or? Agree? Agree, okay. We'll move on. Any deferred business? Any motions of free consideration? Next is an in-camera, so we need a motion to go in camera.
So move.
Moved by the deputy warden, second by Councillor Turner. All those in favor? nay. Motion carried. I'll adjourn the meeting for property service.
Okay, perfect. We're good? Perfect. All right, good evening, everyone. I'll call the Financial Services meeting to order. First, I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. First, we need approval of the agenda. Moved by Councillor Boyles. Seconded by Councillor Turner. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Any emergency resolutions?
Madam Chair, I have one.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Wadden.
Thank you. I just had a request for the community connectivity event grant for $1,500 for District 2. I'm wondering if I could add that to the agenda for tonight, the approval for it.
Okay. Is that agreed by council? Agreed? Okay, let me see. We will put you down. Let's go. We'll make you actual number 7. 7.0. How does that sound?
Oh, sounds great. Thank you.
It's Community Connectivity Grant. Okay. Okay, perfect. All right, we'll move along. Any errors, omissions, corrections to the minutes of January 20th? Any errors, omissions, corrections to the minutes of January 20th? Any errors, omissions, corrections to those minutes? Seeing none, we'll consider those minutes approved. All right, let's move on to our reports. First, we'll have the communications report for the month of January. Go ahead, Councillor Turner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to speak a little bit on the success by looking at the numbers that the MOPC alert program has. I think it's very encouraging that we have about 900 people who've signed up for it. I've signed up for it, and I received a weather warning from Adam that came across my email, so it seems to be working quite nicely. And so I think that it's an extremely valuable tool that we have in our toolbox now to reach out to the residents. So kudos to the staff that's making this work. Thanks very much.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. I got the text as well, and I thought this is great. So know what's going on. Okay. Any other comments or go ahead? Sorry, Warden Parker. Have you written down here? I just didn't.
I also want to speak about the MOPC alert and just the reading on it. New section on the MOPC alert time allows people to register, get information about upcoming meetings. We use this to send alerts about meetings. In there, it talks mostly about meetings, which is a good use of it. But as Larry mentioned, I think it's for more than meetings then, isn't it? There it reads to me mostly that it's about meetings, but it's, if we want to inform any community of a hazard or anything like that, we can use it for a lot more than just meetings.
Yeah, that's right. Like initially it was designed primarily for emergencies, but I think that release was focused on just getting out the new edition of public meetings. So, but we're still keeping that primary focus of emergency alerts,
Yeah.
Keeping people safe, that type of thing.
Okay, and I think it's a great idea, and I think the climate change meetings that we had in January, the 8 of them, what I'm hearing from Brian and whatnot is that there was a lot more people come in because it was put on everybody's seat that night when they were there, and told to take it home with them and register if they wish. So that little extra boost, I think, led to quite an up, and now word of mouth will travel once you get a certain number of people having it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was a great idea, and I think it was good that it was promoted at those meetings. Seemed to help a lot. Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Recreation report. Any questions or comments on the recreation report for the month of January? Seeing none, we'll move along. We have the warden's report. Warden Parker, would you like to speak on that, or just?
No, I think it's fine. I'll leave it go.
Okay.
I'll leave it question.
Okay. Any questions on the warden's report? Yes, go ahead, Councillor Turner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could you explain a little bit to council here what your meeting was with MLA Marco McLeod, with you and Deputy Warden?
Yes, sir, Madam Chair. That was mostly about, and I guess it's going to come up here later on the agenda, mostly about the jail and not taxes, but the services we give to the jail that we don't get paid for, and discussing with him between the deputy warden, myself, and our CAO, if there's any angle we can take. And I think we mentioned at a previous meeting that we would go the political route at an audit committee meeting. It was to see if there was some way we could collect at least some of that money. So that'll be discussed here later on.
Thank you.
Councillor Palmer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just on the code of conduct, is there any update when I went over there expecting to get my papers signed off and I'm good to go, right? But I get over there and I spend, what, three and a half hours there or whatever. We didn't get any papers, so we have to do it online. So is there any word when that's coming up?
I looked again on Monday from the notice that they sent out, and they said that it's still and will be coming, the electronic version that you have to do online.
You take a day off now.
Yeah, it took half a day off. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Dewar.
Thanks. I'd like to hire somebody around the table here to do it for me. When it comes, I'll agree to anything you're gonna do, but what about the ones of us that aren't savvy about that? They were gonna do everything so easy, it was gonna be easy. He wasted 3.5 hours plus getting and coming. Like, it's just, when we took our oath that night, we did a code of conduct. That should cover it for this time. The next time should be, and I agree with what they said, the Municipality of Chester. Sounds like a great place, but anyway. There's just far more to that than we understand. We're all agreeing it's a good thing, it's a wonderful thing. It's no good for anything. When you look down to it, like if I'm on a committee, or some of the rest of us on a committee, if Randy's on a committee, all of us, it's gonna come to it that we won't be allowed to be on those committees. And we're the volunteers. It's not like we're getting paid. We're volunteers. So somebody somewhere breached everything that they did in the other code of conduct to ruin it for all the rest of us. And that's always the way, okay? So, and this was something that was passed down since a while, but I know we're gonna have to do it now, but like I said, when the time comes, I think I have no problem letting Sue-Ann do mine. She's good on the computer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Dewar.
Sorry, I was pointing at Randy.
Yeah.
I do think of the last meeting, it was Brian, I think Brian, we agreed that we could do a
Joint.
gathering or a special joint meeting or whatever that helps you get through it, so, yeah.
So there's no rush.
We'll set you up for success, don't worry.
I'm worried about the fine print on page 27 or 23 or something. And it's gonna come back to get us sometime.
Deputy Warden Murray?
Yes, just on that, I was thinking of you, Chester, that day, so I asked the question. They said we could do it in a group forum, so we're all set.
Sometimes I'm a little more stubborn than people realize.
Warden Parker?
I just want to add on to that we're also going to be, my understanding, able to write a joint test. So it's like in high school, comes test time, you can all share your answers, you see, so we'll make sure everybody passes.
Okay. turn your light off. Next, we'll move along to the internet report. Oh, sorry.
Excuse me, Madam Chair,
Oh.
I just have a comment.
Yes, go right ahead. I apologize.
Yep. I just want to say that the meeting we went to in Toro, I understand some people might have had the wrong information or wrong understanding of what was going to take place. But one thing they did accomplish was that there are some problems with the way of the wording and this sort of thing. So they are addressing those now. And so I think they're trying to get the package together that is good for all counselors. So I don't think that the meeting was such a bad idea. I think that it did identify areas that they have to be more clearer on, and that's what I'm hoping to see come back from there, something with more clarity, so that we will be more comfortable signing off on this code of conduct. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I apologize. I'll have to get in a better habit of looking up to the screen.
No problem.
Okay. Next, we have oh, go ahead, Councillor Boyles. Okay, next we have the internet report. Go ahead, Councillor Boyles.
Yeah, I was just wondering, on the internet, I was asked the question, when somebody orders it from us, is there any charge for the hookup?
So I can answer that. Generally, it's free. On the wireless side, it is free for your first residential install. If you are getting extra, a second property, or if you're not a taxpayer, however that could work, you wouldn't qualify for free installation. On the fiber side, we have, it's been currently free installation to date, so I'll continue to say that, for what we call a standard install. So that pricing includes up to 150 meters of fiber ran from the road into the home, and it's generally 3 poles. So if it's a longer drop than the 3 poles, we quote it out individually with each customer and have them agree to that in advance. And basically, we just charge them back what the contractor charges us, which is quite a reasonable rate.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Councillor Turner?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We've asked for a income statement for quite some time on this project, and we have it. So thank you very much on that. Are you able to explain some of the line items in terms of revenue, in terms of expenses? Are you able to go through that, or do I need somebody else to explain that?
I think it's
I'll
going to
just-
depend on your question, Larry,
Okay.
but you go ahead and I
Okay.
will note anything I can't provide to you tonight.
Okay. So in terms of, it's called trading income. We have access zone bit street services, and then we have access zone service revenues for $36,678. What particular stream of income is that? Access zone service revenues.
So, just recently, we have started to try to separate the revenues and have it better report for each part of the project. Previously, the majority of the accounting entries for revenues were going into infrastructure revenue. That's why you see a big lump sum there. So, recently, we've started breaking that apart to give a better representation of where all the revenue line items are coming from. So there are some entries that we'll be doing with the Deloitte, the accounting team, before year end to properly allocate those. So at year end, we can see exactly where our revenues are coming from, but I can tell you what they represent. Access zone bitstream services, those are the bitstream charges that we charge out to our service providers. So that currently is the 3 companies.
Okay.
The access zone service revenues, that actually represents additional charges that are charged to the service providers as well, whether that be transport services, or if they're peering with us at the internet exchange, there's some port fees and some cross-connect fees is basically what it makes up. So that number will increase as we allocate those funds appropriately into the right GL, but that's what that represents. And retail revenues is us selling services directly to customers. As you can see, we had 1 customer hooked up in that time period that was charged for, so it will grow dramatically.
Okay. And then there's the cost of sales. Could you go through those line by line, please?
So I'll try my best to tell you off the top of my head which vendors this represents. Retail service co-location contracts, those are places where we're co-located and paying fees to be there. That could be on provincial Bell or Stingray towers.
Okay.
That could also be, for instance, we have a second, what we call a POP site, and that's at the town of New Glasgow. So that
Okay.
would be a co-location fee as well for their space.
So this is from these costs and these revenues are from April 24 to January 25.
That's correct.
That's right?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so I'm with you so far.
Okay. So retail service installation, those are the fees that we're paying our installer, the company Blue Nose that is doing basically the operational part of they're not building the lines. What they do is they're the ones that are running the drops from the road into the homes, as well as assisting with surge capacity in times of busyness to complete retail installation. So that's right in the home or from the line into the home.
Okay, thank you.
Retail service, internet services. I honestly, Larry, I'm not 100% sure right off this moment to tell you what is charged in there. It's obviously a small amount of $1,700, so I would have to get back to you on that
That's
without
fine.
opening up the services right
Fine.
now.
Okay,
Large private branch exchange expense. So that is for where we're at the internet exchange sites, one of which is in Bears Lake. And that's where all the internet comes together and people are cross-connected or peered with other internet service providers. Also within there is another fee that has to do with the internet exchange. So we actually have we have a contract through a person that has a space within the building, and we also have to pay for access into the building. So there's a couple of fees that come into that, but that's basically what allows us to connect to the internet of the world.
okay.
Land and building expense. Off the top of my head, I'd have to report back to you again, a small expense. It's not an ongoing thing. It would be a small one-off item.
So did we have to buy land to put towers up?
We did,
Okay.
yeah.
Do we have to, and did we have to put buildings on those sites as well for battery backup and things like that?
What we put on those sites, we refer to as a walk-in cabinet. So it's basically a small shed. They're secured with security and power running to them, and they house electronics that need to be maintained in different parts of the project along the.
Just seems
along
to
the
me
trail.
that $1,000 is kind of small for that.
Yeah, and again, Larry, that could lead into us better allocating the
Yeah.
expenses into the correct GLs.
Yeah.
So by year end, you'll see a better representation of the same dollar amounts, but distributed
And they're
more
probably,
appropriately.
as CAIRN just mentioned, they're probably operating expenses rather than the capital expenses?
That's correct. That is what this report represents.
Yeah, okay. And then wholesale internet services?
So that is us purchasing internet from the large internet providers or transport services, which is basically what carries the internet. That as the main suppliers would be GTT and Hurricane Electric. They're very large internet providers, as well as some Bell and Eastlink charges that we have contracts for that carry the internet to our different sites and vice versa.
So does that cost, like to get the internet from the exchange in Burnside to here, is that wholesale internet, is that part of that as well?
Some of that is rolled up into there. Basically, anything to do with Bell, Eastlink, and the two internet providers that I referenced. So the GTT, HE, they actually provide the internet, and the other providers are providing circuits, or that basically carry that internet to us
Okay.
and back and forth. And by having various providers, it offers us a redundancy to any network issues that could take down a particular line.
Okay. And then you can just go, if you wouldn't mind going through the rest of it quickly?
Sure, so the next category is pretty
If that's okay
self-explanatory.
if that's okay with the
Yeah,
chair
go
to
right
go
ahead.
through them?
Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so the next category, obviously bad debt expense, bank fees, bank interest, And as some of the entries related to currency gains are, I would have to have the accounting team speak to exactly what they represent, interest and related items, and then our Stripe fees. Stripe being our payment processing system, and any payments that are processed through there is a fee related to that. So that's what you see there. Call completion services, that would represent our new 24/7 call answer service company that is taking care of that. So that number will be, monthly will be the same amount. You'll see that every month going forward. They just came on in December.
Is there an uptake on that service? Is there, how many people have used it? Do you know?
I could get you that information. We do get a report monthly with every invoice. I do receive a report of all the calls, the time frame. It doesn't go over the items covered. That is maintained in our ticketing system.
Okay, thank you.
Employee-related expense, I believe that pertain directly to contractual items that we're required to pay out under our union contract with staff.
Okay.
Vehicle expense, that would include a cap that we purchased last year for one of the install trucks, as well as any vehicle servicing, things to that extent.
Thank you.
Office equipment, that could pertain to a variety of things. Equipment, mostly not furniture. So different tools we may have required within the office, different technology items. I'd have to get you a better report on that. I can't speak to each of those offhand. Network operations expense. So that would have to do with some of our contracts we have with different supporting companies, I guess, that are supporting our operations. So that could be our cost building system, our cost business engine, which also houses our marketplace and manages all the fiber provisioning and management, as well as we have a number of other tools that we have to use on the network in order to manage traffic, manage alerting, offer certain securities, and those are all rolled up in there, and those are a result of things you would see monthly recurring on the payables report.
Okay, thank you.
System tools and repairs, off the top of my head, I'd have to get you a report on that as well.
Okay.
General and administrative, that is general and administrative, a large item. I could again provide you a report. I wasn't prepared with that level of detail this evening.
Okay.
Marketing and general administration, so that's all our marketing, any expenditures towards that, promotional items, supplies to attend events, or any supporting
Okay.
partnerships we made with any community
Okay.
sites. And domain and website hosting, that of course represents our website hosting expense. And that's where we're at today.
So, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
If we go up to the business plan year to date, and we had budgeted 262,820, and we've realized 261,000, so that seems to be in line. If we come down to the total operating expenses, and we have a business plan year-to-date of 1.4 million, and we're at 580, we're considerably lower on that. Am I interpreting that right?
You are.
Okay.
Keeping in mind the amount shown for the 12-month business projection for the net profit. We're not there yet, of course. So yeah, we're on track, much better than on track.
Okay.
But keeping in mind, there's still until the end of March 31st of expenses to add into that.
Okay.
Nothing largely outstanding, but just to keep
Okay.
that in mind.
So this is the first kick at the can. So will we get this on a monthly basis? And can we track it so that we can look at trends on each one of these items, so that we can see that we're trending in the right direction?
We will continue to provide financial reports. In terms of the exact detail, I'll work with our CAO to refine this and,
Okay.
and make it
Yeah.
palatable and understandable, and
Yeah.
ability to refer month over month and see
Yeah.
any trends and growth and
Yeah.
any areas of concern, of course.
Okay,
So,
that's it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Absolutely, no, I think it was important for us to have a walkthrough of that, especially like seeing it. And so we can understand line items so that we may, look at it at, future, packages and understand and digest what we're reading. Counselor Thompson?
Thank you. Just two follow-ups from the last two questions, I guess. First off, the rental equipment. I thought I heard you say that you have to have a tax account to get it free. Like, so if my concern is, if you're a renter, if you're renting a house in Sunny Brae, do you have to pay for the install?
Contractually, within our contract that we had for the wireless project, it says that we are to charge that, and that's the contract we have between us and the federal government. However, we haven't been forcing that on renters. We've been trying to allow for accessibility and to get it out there as much as possible. We do have the ability to charge for that, but to date, we've basically only applied that if it's been a secondary request.
That's fair.
Yeah.
One more question on
Go right ahead.
And I'm not sure if I missed it when you were going through the details. Like the employee costs for the internet, is it in this here, or did I miss that when you're going through this? Where's the salaries? And how many employees does the internet project now have?
So the salaries are included in here. I'm just going to defer this to Brian, as he did prepare this report, so he can tell you exactly how he has that included.
Yeah, so salaries are included in general and administrative. As well, there is an allocation in the network operation expense as well for employees, because employees have different tasks within the network.
Just how many employees are working on this project now?
Five. So we've just added on our sixth, but this report to date would, I guess that person did start in January, but it's more representative of a 5 staff member expense. You're welcome.
Thank you. Counselor Wadden?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just through you to Brian. Brian, have we heard back from the province yet on that information that was sent to them in January concerning the financials for the internet project?
No, we have not.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Counselor Parker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to ask Rhiannon here, your projected deficit for 12 months was 2.4 million here, and you're coming in at 1.277. How did you accomplish that? Like, that's $1 million. That's a lot of money.
So I can't take full credit for the savings, as there's a large team of people contributing to this project. But we've tried to make every effort we can to save money or cut costs or find a more streamlined or cost-saving approach to many different aspects of the project. And on the operations side, specifically us adding the 2 field service technicians that we hired directly on staff this year has directly resulted in a lot of cost savings. That's work that would have been previously done by contractors. And some of the limitations we faced there were the ability to accomplish quite the amount that our staff are accomplishing, as well as customer satisfaction. But of course, the expense related to that was greatly reduced by us bringing a few positions in-house. So that's one thing that we've done to accomplish that. But beyond that, it's a very, very tight ship. If it's not necessary to operate the network, we try to find alternatives.
Yeah. Well, I think you should be commended for that. I think you're doing a great job there. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Perfect.
If
Oh.
I could just add one thing, kind of on the overall, when you look at these, the original business plan called for certain things to maybe happen within a 12-month period. So those projections are based on that. If one of those things doesn't happen, say a segment was scheduled to come online, it doesn't come online, it has an impact on your projections. So it's more of a rolling plan, I guess. So things may get allocated to the next period that you plan for in this period. So when this will really take shape and you can do really good comparisons is when the network's actually built, right? And then it's moving forward. But when you're kind of building and rolling along, there could be some fluctuations in the numbers that you see here. But as Rhiannon said, on the cost side, that's where you're going to really make your business case work is on that cost side, controlling the cost side. The revenues will come, and they're based on a roll up towards that capture rate that we're seeking of, average 40% uptake. So.
Yeah, I think the numbers are looking really good there on the uptake there. Thank you, Brian.
Okay, seeing no more lights on, seeing no more questions, we'll move along. Next, we have the tax receivable report. As you see here this is for December. We had talked about the percentage of money that was collected, so it's nice to see that added in as well. Any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll move along. Next, we have the deed transfer tax report. Still doing well, I guess. Any questions or comments on the deed transfer tax report? Okay, seeing none, we'll move along. Next, we have a streetlight update. This is the report talking about installations and kind of giving us an update of where we are and when to expect an installation date. Is there any questions or comments on this report? Yes, go ahead, Councillor Turner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In terms of waiting for NSP approval, is there a standardized time for instance, the one that I put in was on Conley Drive and Truro Road, and we're waiting on Nova Scotia Power to install a power pole. Now, we're waiting for NSP approval. Is there a standard time for those? Like, do they usually take 6 months? Do they take a year? Do they take 3 years? How do we judge whether this work is being done timely or not?
Do you want to take that, Logan?
Yeah, thanks for the question. There's no legislated time frame for Nova Scotia Power, not in the same way that provincial departments have legislated time frames. We typically hear back fairly quickly. Like, it doesn't normally take this long, but we can follow up on it to see. There can be different things that play into it. It can sometimes result in needing additional work on site, that kind of thing that can delay it. But we can follow up on that one specifically, and I can give you an update on that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, seeing no more questions, comments, we will move along. Reports requiring a motion. So we have accounts paid for the month of January 2025. Questions or comments on accounts paid? Okay, we have a motion. Deputy Warden Marine. Moved and seconded by Counselor Palmer. Questions or comments on the January report? All right, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, nay. Motion carried. Okay, next we'll go with 7.0. This is Counselor Wadden brought this to us tonight for community connectivity grant. I'll turn it over to you, Counselor Wadden.
Okay, thank you for allowing us to go on the agenda. I do appreciate it. I've been approached by the community center again, wanting to put on a family event for District 2 once again this year, and they're hoping to have it instead of a late spring, they're hoping to have more of a winter time frame for it. So that's why it was important to get it forwarded tonight to for approval. But it's going to be the same as last year. District 2 is going to be open to Pictou Landing First Nations, and of course Little Harbour area. So like I said, the plans are just in the works now. So I would like to make a motion that council approve the event grant of $1,500.
To the Little Harbor Community Center?
Yes.
Yes, okay, perfect. So it's been moved by yourself, Counselor Wadden, and seconded by Counselor Thompson. Is there any questions or comments on this? Go ahead, Counselor Boyles.
I couldn't hear what she was saying, like it was,
Oh, it's a community event, and they're gonna do it for the winter time for District 2. And it's through the community hall.
and what did she say about the people from the reserve or whatever?
For all of, she said for all of Pictou Landing First Nations, Little Harbor, all of District 2. Yeah. Okay, let's call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, nay. Motion carried. Did you have something to add, Counselor Wadden?
No, that's good. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, now we'll go to 7.1. We're going to do these separately just because there are different as we get going here. Okay, so first we have a municipal service grant extension request from District 8 Abercrombie Community Center in the amount of $2,012.50 for renovations to the washroom, and those renovations have been delayed. The original municipal service grant issued was $8,233.
So I move that we permit the extension request to go forward.
Okay, so we'll grant the extension request, moved by Councillor Turner, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Any questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, nay. Motion carried. Great, next we have a council grant extension request for CAIRN Refugee sponsorship in the amount of $2,500, and they're still awaiting on the family to arrive, and this $2,500 is the original grant issued. Moved by Councillor Palmer, seconded by Warden Parker. Go ahead, Councillor Boyles.
So they're looking for a grant, and they're going to, this CAIRN is for referee sponsorship?
No, this was a council grant that we approved last spring for the refugees. CAIRN is a local organization that helps refugee sponsorship. And so they already were granted the $2,500, but they're just asking for an extension because they're waiting for their family to arrive that they had sponsored.
Yeah, well, I can't vote for it for the simple reason is that I'm hearing every day that, I mean, there's just too many people coming here and we don't have the means to have them, you know, I mean, not knocking the people, but we don't have the means. We get no doctors, we get no housing, we get nothing, and now they keep on to take, so I'll be going against it anyway.
Okay, so any other questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, nay. Is there somebody online that voted nay? She said aye. Okay, sorry. Motion carried. Okay, let's move on. Council grant extension request, seniors outreach in the amount of $2,860. This is for the lunch and learn sessions. The original grant was $5,000. Moved by Councillor Bailey, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Any questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary minded, nay. Motion carried. Okay, next we have the council grant extension request for the cruise Committee in the amount of $3,000, continuation of programming. Moved by Counselor Palmer, seconded by Counselor Thompson. Questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Next, we have 7.5, Council Connectivity Grant Extension Request, Northumberland Regional High School, the amount of $10,000, and they're just waiting. Their application originally was for to build a greenhouse. As we know, they're doing food service out there to students, so this will kind of complement that. And they're still waiting on approval from the school board to for that project. Need a motion? So moved by Councillor Palmer, or Parker. Seconded by Councillor Turner. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Community Connectivity Grant Extension Request from the Toney River Community Hall, the amount of $35,000 for building improvements, and that is delayed. Make a motion. Councillor Bailey. Seconded by, I don't even know who I heard. I heard Warden Parker. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. All right, so there is our extension requests. Let's move along to streetlight approval, District 4, intersection of Sergeant Lane and Route 6, River John. Moved by Councillor Bailey. Seconded by Councillor Turner. Logan, do you want to speak to this? Oh, yeah, sure. I'll get Logan first.
Yeah, no, there's no reason to not go ahead with it. It's in keeping with all of the standard policies, so.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay,
Pretty
perfect.
straightforward, thanks.
Yeah. Warden Parker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I've attended 3 different meetings in River John over the last couple of years to do with some bad behavior out there, I guess, and it all circulates, or most of it circulates around the drug world, and this is one of the main areas where it's taking place. So I think it's a good idea to put a light there. It's not going to stop everything, but anybody that's trying to stop things knows that most of these bad guys don't like lights too much, and so I think it's a good thing to have that light there, and it might take more than one, but right now, one's a start. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Wow, okay. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Okay, move on to 7.8, nomination of attendees for FCM conference. As you know, this year it is in Ottawa, May 29th to June 1st, and as our policy states, there needs to be 4 elected members, plus the warden can attend. So we're looking for any councillors this evening that would like to put their names forward, and if there's more than 4, we will draw out of a hat. Anybody interested in attending that? Okay, Councillor Parker. Okay, Boyles? Nobody else? Okay. All right, so those 2 counselors plus the warden can attend this conference, so we need a motion for that? Or do we?
I don't think so. Do we need a motion for that, Brian?
No, not if you're under the number.
Okay, perfect. Okay. We'll look forward to hearing your reports. All right, next we have some tax write-offs. These are quite substantial. Both of these come from the recommendation from our audit committee. The first one is Atlantic Cemetery Holdings, the amount of $191,141.51. And the second is the North Nova Scotia Correctional Facility, aka the jail, $700,330.31. Need a motion on the floor, please. Moved by Counselor Palmer. Seconded by Deputy Warden Murray. I'll open the floor up to comments and questions on those write-offs. Warden Parker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As I answered Councillor Turner's question earlier, that was the reason for meeting with our MLA, Marco McLeod. This had come up at the audit committee meeting, and to me, it's too big an amount to write off without us exploring every possible avenue to collect that money. And I don't know if everybody's aware, unless you're on the audit committee maybe, but it's I'm not quite clear of the 700,000 total. It says taxes, write off uncollectible taxes. So I think some of that is tax, but some of it is for services. And perhaps through you, Madam Chair, I could ask CAIRN, is that all for services or some services and some taxes?
The 700,000 for the jail is all for services. Part of it is for fire hydrant charges, fire hydrant protection charges, and part of it's for sewer services.
Yes.
But once you levy those, they're considered.
They're considered the general word taxes, I guess. But so in what came with our package there, and we did receive this back after our MLA met with us, was that if it's in the name of the king, which is what the excuse anyway being used in the name of the king, that they don't have to pay taxes. And my understanding is they don't even have to pay in lieu of. I thought that they did have to pay in lieu, but it says here they don't.
They do pay part in grant in lieu.
In lieu, they do pay, although it sounds like they don't have to.
They pay taxes in grant in lieu.
Yeah. And, but they don't pay for the services, and that's the part that bothers me, is that we're providing services. We provide services to all our residents, depending on where they live, of course, what type of services are available. And people pay their bill for those services. And so we're providing these services and not getting paid. It's pretty obvious that somebody has to pay that bill, and it's the rest of the people that are getting sewer services or whatever. And so that upsets me greatly, that we provide services, we don't get paid. So in the written part there that came with our meeting notes, and I asked our CAO, because it mentions hospitals and schools, I think, and other buildings, and that get services, and there is a way to collect this money, but it has to be what they call a consumption charge in order to get the money. So I asked, well, what about the Aberdeen Hospital? Do they get paid for sewer services to that? Well, they do, because it's a consumption charge, and they mention in there that they will pay for a consumption charge. So the way they do it, I ran a business in Glasgow one time, is that however much water you use, well, obviously it had to go somewhere, so it goes down the sink or down the toilet or whatever, so that's how much water you get charged on your sewer services. If we were to set it up that way, and I asked our CAO, and he said we could do it without too much difficulty, and to make sure we were fair to everybody. But you know, we could do that, and then we'd be able to collect this money. I don't think the fire hydrant service falls within that. I think it's only the sewer service that would fall within that. But it is a way to collect some of that money if we decided we wanted to go down that route rather than just simply write it all off. We wouldn't be able to, I'm quite sure, be able to collect on the back, but we would be able to.
You're not going to be able to collect this money. This
No.
money's already been
Yeah.
levied.
But going forward.
This would, if you changed it, you would have to collect it on a go-forward basis.
Yeah, I understand that, but it's a decision of council has to make whether we want to do that, but at least we wouldn't be writing off another big bunch down the road. I would like to ask through you, Madam Chair, our CAO, to comment on the feasibility, you know, of doing that, how much work it would be, what the cost would be, and that type of stuff, if it's worth our effort. But it appears to be, we've shaken every limb on the tree, and it appears to be our only way that we can collect some of that money for a service that we should be getting paid for. If Mr. Cullen is still with us.
Yeah, no, it would be feasible to do. It will take some time for us to model it, I guess, to make sure meters that would be on the water system, but it would be doable, but it will take some time for us to model it. So I doubt we would have it ready for this upcoming fiscal year. Pretty confident in saying that, that we wouldn't have it ready for this year, but we could certainly develop the model and bring that back to council.
So I would like to make a motion.
Oh, we already have a
okay.
motion.
I'm
Oh, yeah, okay.
I most definitely say that this would need some study. There's a lot of study. It would be quite a comprehensive project for us to put in place, and definitely would not be ready for this year.
No, no.
So we already have a motion,
Oh,
but
sorry. Yep.
I'll come back to you after that motion's passed, okay? Counselor Thompson?
So I recall that in Halifax, the HRM they went to Supreme Court with the federal government over Parks Canada and the Citadel over services and assessments or whatever it might have been. But I'm disappointed that it's come to this, that we're writing this off, because these are services. That's what this is. It's no different than whether we paid at our house. We all pay, if you're in a service area, you pay service charges. And I guess I just want to remind everybody around the council table that when they first floated the idea of a jail, we wrote a letter of support for a neighboring town to host this prison, and we got it anyways. So the province needs to come to the table and take a look at this. I'm fearful if we vote to write this thing off now, we'll never see the light of day of that money. So I don't know what the benefit is to writing it off if we're going to chase down this money later.
Go ahead, Logan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just as a question through you, Madam Chair. So is the comment about looking at consumption from the lens of sewer consumption to backtrack and look at the water consumption, therefore? Because if that's the case, we can look at options to include sewer flow meters, a sewer flow meter, just like we are in our ERIC flow meter situation. We've been asked to pay retroactively a whole bunch of money for ERIC sewer contributions that some municipalities believe that we're contributing. It all ends up in the ERIC system that's supporting the overall county, as Councillor Thompson mentioned. So it's certainly something that from an engineering standpoint, we could be measuring it with a single sewer flow meter coming from the jail line. There's no reason why we couldn't. I don't think the jail's population has increased at all in the past 5 years or more. So is there any reason why we can't backtrack those calculations and say, this is what we think that we average on a yearly basis once we get that in place? Just offer that's something that we're doing elsewhere for the ERIC flow meter project. There's no reason why we couldn't do one here as well.
Okay. Brian, did you want to jump in there?
Well, I think it's clear from the province's standpoint, they're not paying this $700,000.
No.
They're basically saying there's no legal requirement for them to pay it. They're not going to pay it. They paid it for the first 7 years, and that was mainly just because of one individual, the person who was in charge of the file when the jail was built, was authorizing the payment. There was no legal basis for them to be doing that. They did it. But this last 3 years that we've levied, they're saying we're not paying it. We can change our system on a go-forward basis to try and recover a charge from the jail on a consumption basis. But that's going to take, as we've said, that's going to take some time to figure out, because you can't single out one property. You have to, your bylaw, we have to go back, we have to amend our sewer bylaw, and how we apply it has to be, defendable and, kind of uniform across the, I guess, the users that would have water going in, so.
Okay. Counselor Dewar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Chairman, Chair Lady. The real reason that we wanted to write it off was because the interest and the penalties were just adding up and adding up and adding up, and it was making the books look so bad, because we're never going to get it, and it just keeps going up. If they can figure out something to go forward, well, that may be a plus. But if this plan that going forward is going to take a year to do, I'm just wondering why we weren't doing it 2 years ago or 3 years ago to find out, like, it took that long to figure out from other municipalities or other situations that there is a way of getting that money, because up till last week or so, when I was at the audit meeting, there was no, they said we'd never be able to get anything from either place, and that's why we were led to write them off, because just like I said a moment ago, you just keep adding up and adding up and adding up, and it was just too big an amount. The interest on $5,000 a month or twice a year for taxes isn't too bad, but when you're talking $700,000, you're talking money. And it was just making the books look bad at that end. So, am I saying, do you understand what I'm trying to say to you here?
Yes.
Does anybody agree with me? Okay. So, is there any real reason, Brian, that we didn't shake these leaves off the tree 3 years ago, or we just didn't know 3 years ago, did we? Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think, our water utility is not like I guess, our water and sewer utilities are not really interlinked. Like a town, that would host one of these units, their sewer and water kind of linked together. Ours are not, because like we have water in like kind of the real suburban area, but we have sewer out in River John, we have sewer out in Hopewell, right? And we have sewer in Thorburn where we don't have water, so they're really two different systems, right? So that's why we're saying, like, if we're going to go down this path of doing a consumption charge, it's got to be something that we really look at building from the ground up, because we've got a mishmash of sewer and water, right? So that's why we're saying it's going to take time. It's not as straightforward as everybody's on water and everybody's on sewer, right?
Okay. Karen, did you have something to just add to that? And then
Yeah,
I'll
I just want to, it's got to be built fairly, because if we can't just, this system that we're talking about, this consumption is not just for the jail. It's going to be for anybody that has water and sewer. So it's got to be built fairly for those that have water and sewer compared to those that just have sewer. So it's got to be studied and built fairly for both of those components, so that they're paying fairly.
Okay.
And it's not just for the jail. It's for John Q. citizen that has on a consumption basis also.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Dewar, you had a follow-up?
Yeah. Okay, so now I'm understanding it a little more now because of what Karen just said. So the schools, the homes, the nursing, Riverton, all those ones, and anybody that's got water and sewer along on the Riverton Road and Plymouth Road, it'll all have to be done the same way for each person, like she said, okay?
Equitable.
Okay, so it's a far, far bigger deal than, no wonder, I was wondering what was gonna take a year, but I can understand what's gonna take a year now, because there's an awful lot more to this than, are we gonna gain anything, Brian, do you think, on the whole picture of it all?
Well, at the end of the day, you're gonna figure out what your costs are. You're gonna figure out what the consumption is on your water, right? So you are going to gain, or at least recover some of the costs from the jail, right? Which will have an overall impact on your rate, your sewer rate. So it will have an impact, right? Then you'll recover something to help offset the cost. What that is right now, couldn't tell you, but if we go down this road, we will recover something from it. Right now, we're not recovering anything on the sewer side. But we will recover something.
Okay.
We can't tell you what it is. We can't tell you what.
Yeah, there's got to be some study to it.
There's got to be some study to it, right, and it's based on consumption, and right now we have an issue with consumption too.
Counselor Wadden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to get back to the motion, I think from the perspective of the audit committee, we're certainly not happy having to write off a $700,000 bill, or even $191,000, excuse me, for that matter. But staff have exhausted all avenues for collecting that money. So I understand the Atlantic Cemetery Holdings has someone really dependable looking after what's going on there. So that is good. That won't leave people in the lurch by trying to put them into a property sales tax. So I'm really okay with that. And then as far as Northeast goes, we've exhausted all avenues. So the only choice we have is to write it off, because we have to get it off our books. You see the outstanding tax bills every month, and this is really a huge impact on it. So I think for all intents and purposes for tonight, we're not going to get the money for the jail for the $700,000. So I think it would be in council's best interest to go ahead and write those taxes off, as sad as it is. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Turner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What was Marco McLeod's take on this with your conversations with him? What was his position?
Through you, Madam Chair. He simply said he would take it to the authorities in the province and bring it up with them, which he did. And so we then heard back from him saying that, you know, basically what we've been talking about here tonight, that they're not going to pay any taxes because of the King's name. But if it was changed to consumption, then the jail would pay for that on the sewer end of things. And they're already paying for the water. So we would be gaining something. It's going to take us a while, and we have to be careful and all that, but we would be gaining something. Otherwise, the other people with the sewer have to pay their share because they're not paying it.
I understand that. I'm just wondering what his position was.
No, his position, he didn't know anything about it. He just agreed to carry it forward. And
Thank you.
Okay, Counselor Boyles?
Yeah, my question is, you know, they're saying the 700, 330,031 cents. How much really are we losing on that? Like, I mean, it's just the same as a farmer selling eggs for $4 a dozen. I mean, that's not costing him $4 a dozen. So are we really losing 700,000, or is, you know what I mean, that's what we would get because we're selling the services to them? So would it be a less figure that if it was just what it was costing us?
Yeah. That's a good question.
The impact of that is the full 700,000. That's what's included when we do when we would have done our area rate calculations back during those years. So it's not an inflated number. It's the true number.
But it's not inflating them, but I'm just saying that, is the cost in that for the services, is this something that could have been a bill if it was just a cost, 300,000? I don't know, it was just a question of what it would cost if, if it was just paying for, what it's costing us, I guess.
We bring it to a break-even point, so there's no profit built into that. So it's, our sewer is 100% recovery. We're not making money off of that. We're just recovering our costs.
That's good, I learned something tonight, thank you.
Okay, anybody else that hasn't spoke want to speak? Yeah, he's already spoken. Okay, so that's for the second motion, is that what that's for? Okay, all right, okay, sure I understand. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carried, so that motion has been carried, so Warden Parker, do you had a second motion relating to this that you'd like to bring forth?
I would like to move that we direct staff to investigate charging for sewer on consumption basis that would be fair to all.
Okay, I have a seconder on that? Say, seconder, Donnie, Councillor Parker. Right, any questions or comments on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Next, we have a tax exemption policy update. We have two properties that were sold. River John 4-H had a property that was sold, and also Scottsburn Recreation. So we need to approve the removal of these properties from Schedule A as they no longer qualify for exemption. Moved by Deputy Warden Murray. Oh, seconded by Councillor Bailey. Any questions or comments on these policy updates? Seeing none. Oh, did you want to speak, Warden Parker? No.
Oh, sorry.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Okay, next we have the comparison of council remuneration. This was something that we, I guess, came from, pardon me?
Cemetery?
Yeah?
That was
Yeah.
two together, they were together, were they?
Yeah?
Because we never had a conversation about the cemetery. Did I miss that?
It was open for both, so it was, I guess conversation leaned towards, the correction facility, but it was for both.
I must have misinterpreted.
Nope. Okay, next we'll, go and talk about the comparison of council remuneration. This was brought up from a conversation that we had at last month's meeting. And as you see in our package there, we have some numbers to, I guess, to compare. Brian, did you want to speak on this?
Sure. Yeah, so the initial comparison was similar using the units that we looked at in terms of the expense policy on meal rates and mileage rates. So Annapolis, Antigonish, Cumberland, and Victoria were four of the rural units that were compared. They're similar size, population, budgets, things of that nature. So the table one just shows the average salaries for the mayor, warden, deputy mayor, warden, and councillors, and then our rates below there. So on the council, we're, we'll say 3,000 below, deputy, we're about 3,000 below there. Table 2 was just some other units around the province that are similar size budgets, maybe slightly larger, but Colchester, Town of Truro, Amherst, and East Hants. I guess that's more the northern zone. units from the northern zone and how we compare there. And then the third table is all the rural municipalities in the province that filled out the AMA salary survey this past August, I think it was August 2024. So these numbers are reflective of current year. So as I said, there's a wide range of salaries amongst units. Just kind of looking at the trends there amongst all the various comparables. The big trend is that the deputy position on average is paid about 64% off the mayor or warden position, and then councillors are right around 85% of what the deputy would make. So when you look at that kind of ratio and you apply it to where ours is taking the warden's position, then applying the 64%, the deputy warden's rate would be 44, and a councillor's salary would be 37, based on that. So that's kind of where it would look, they would land if you use that kind of rationale. And as I say, there's no specific recommendation because we weren't really asked for one. We were asked to supply the information, but things that you could look at potentially, and as I say, salaries and compensation are generally politically sensitive type thing. Not for us, more for you. But there's different ways you could look at it. Doing it, you could phase something in, you could implement whatever you view as fair compensation. You could move it to the average. You could do nothing. You could say, we're good. So there are endless possibilities of what you could do. You could say, we'll set the rates for the next council, right? Take things. So the other thing our policy does have in there is that the rates that you are paid are adjusted annually on April 1st by the Consumer Price Index as it is applied to the Canada Pension Plan. So that is kind of built in there as well. Take things. So.
Okay, thank you, Brian. So as you see in the third page in the memo, the recommendation there, we do have some options. We could do nothing. We could, as Brian said, implement this change immediately if we wanted to do so. If we wanted to implement this change, we could do it incrementally, or we could just move the salaries to the average salaries within the province. What's your pleasures, councillors? Okay, go ahead, Councillor Turner.
I'm happy with the Consumer Price Index. That's, seems a fair way to move forward. No, I know. That's
Okay.
what I'm saying. I'm happy
So you're
with
saying
it.
do nothing, yes.
I'm happy with Consumer Price Index.
Okay,
Based on, the what did he say it was based on?
Canadian pension
Canadian
plan.
pension, yeah, so I'm happy with that.
Okay. Go- Oh, there's no motion.
Oh, is it?
No. Go ahead,
That's what I was gonna ask you. Larry make the motion because he seconded it. Are you making a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion.
okay,
That we just stick with the CPI.
okay,
Second.
okay.
Question.
We had just, I think, talked. Did you want to speak on that at all? Go ahead, Councillor Palmer.
There is a slight discrepancy for the average for the Northern District for the deputy warden, who puts in a lot of extra time with meetings and things like that, so I would like to see councillor's salary stay the same, and we'll up the deputy warden to the average for the Northern District, or that's okay with council.
Okay. Okay, oh, sorry, go ahead, Deputy Warden.
Madam Chair, I'll declare a conflict of interest because this is the position that I hold and I feel that I should be part of it, so I'll leave it.
Okay. Conflict has been declared. Deputy Warden Murray, go ahead, Warden Parker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would concur with Councillor Palmer, and maybe there needs to be some changes made eventually at the next election for the councillors, but I don't think we want to get ourselves into that debate right now publicly. But on the Deputy Warden's position, Wayne certainly is here pretty well every meeting that Brian and I have together to try and keep things going between meetings, I guess I'll say, and is a valuable input on that. And I know he doesn't feel like, it's his place to ask for more, and he even said if it was just for the next council coming in too, but I do feel that he should be brought up to some level. I'm not saying what that is, but and then perhaps we look at making the percentages for councillors right come the next election. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Anybody mind if I speak from the chair? Just briefly. I know Deputy Warden Murray had nothing formal, but had said, it's a lot of work. You're coming here for all your meetings. And it's something that, I think that he wasn't looking for himself, but I think he was looking for future. That's the gist that I got out of it anyways in our, it wasn't anything official conversation or anything, but, and I can see that he does a lot coming with the warden, and it's quite a difference between the two. I know it's not the same work, but there is a lot of similarities. So while I agree that maybe councillors don't require any change to them, I do think we should maybe have a look at the deputy warden position because, there is a lot of responsibility placed on that. And so I would hope that we could have that conversation. Okay, that's all I want to say. So a motion on the floor is to keep everything how it is right now. Okay? Keeping the deputy warden salary as is, keeping our councillor salaries as is. Go ahead, Warden Bailey.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
What did I say, Warden Bailey? Councillor Bailey, sorry.
If we look at what we're getting paid per hour, we're getting paid pretty goddamn good. Mm-hmm. Every one of us, from the warden right down. So as far as increasing one person, I mean, we're making, let's face it, we're making $100, $200, $300 an hour if you want to look at it. And I have one of the busiest districts of them all, and I just don't understand where this comes from. I believe that if we want to do it, increase anybody, let's do it in 2028, and we all get elected or de-elected onto it.
Okay. All right, so there are motions on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contraminded nay. Can I see nays? Who's the nays?
So the motion was to say with CPI.
Stay with CPI. It was no change. For everybody. Yeah, no change to anybody. Oh, sorry, Councillor Wadden? I'm so sorry. Just one second.
Was that not including the deputy wardens in that?
Yeah, deputy wardens was included in
Is that part of your motion?
It was just everyone stays with CPI.
Sorry, yeah.
Just stays.
Everybody.
No change.
No change to anybody's.
Okay, I apologize. I thought it was that we were changing one.
Okay.
That's what my motion.
Yeah, your motion was just to, everything stays the same how it was now, okay? And, sorry, that's my fault. It was, everything stays the same, there's no changes to anything. Councillor Wadden, did you want to add?
Thank you. Yeah, yes, please. I just agree with the concept that we shouldn't raise them now. I think if that's something that we want to do for the future in 4 years' time, certainly we could look at it then. But I think all intents purpose now, if I was going to support any kind of a raise, it would be something I would have to speak with my residents about, to let them know that this is what I was doing, because we're in a very difficult position, setting our own rate, setting our own salaries. I think this is something that should be done by another committee aside from council. I don't think it's a fair way to be doing this at all. But having said that, I'm supporting the motion.
Okay.
To keep everything the same.
So,
Thank you.
okay, perfect. So we already had the vote. Can we have all the nays? Because we had the vote.
I don't think
I
people were
don't
clear.
think you were clear in your motion.
Can we have another vote?
Okay, we can have another vote. So is there anything I have to do to get out of that? Pass motion, to strike it. Is there agreement that we'll vote again on this? So the motion on the floor is that we will keep everything the same as it is right now. There'll be no changes to counselors, deputy warden, nobody's salary. We're keeping it the same moving forward. Does everybody, we all agree, understand the motion? Okay. All right, let's call for the vote again. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried.
Is Joe a nay? Joe a nay.
Joe, are you a nay?
Yes. I think the future, the 2028 should be looked at for new counselors moving in to this position.
That's what this was too, yeah.
You didn't understand.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So if there is appetite to bring this up again later on in our term, we can do that. But for right now, for the next six months, is my understanding, this topic will be off the table, okay? All right. Moving forward. Wayne. Okay, next we're moving forward with our capital improvement plan, approval of the capital improvement plan for 2024, 2025. We will need a motion on the floor to do that. So let's start with the motion, and then we can open the floor up to discussion. Councillor Boyles has moved it. Seconded by Councillor Turner. All right, I'll open the floor up to any questions or comments. As you see, we have goes by year here, year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, and year 5. We had set these through previous council with our priorities and projects. Councillor Bailey. Oh.
Madam Chair, has the projects been done prior to this council being elected for future years? Like, I guess, I know back, we used to get a list of the projects that were put in by staff, and then we would get to, what's the word I'm looking for, grade them, I guess, that may not be the right word. Has that been done?
Yes, so how it worked,
It
how we
has-
did,
It
yes.
has been done, or it was done in October?
Not for this term, but this, I guess, the year 1, we had it was a survey. We had a discussion of all of the projects that were put forward, and we had like a ranking system. And counselor, it was kind of like a grading system, like you had mentioned. We did that, I believe, when did we complete that exercise? It was late last year, just before.
We did that,
It's in the summer.
Summer?
I say around August in the summer. So these
Yeah.
projects are the ones that council voted on, or the majority of councillors have voted, that these projects be considered in the 5-year incremental span, right? So the ones that are on 24, 25 are the projects that are either in construction mode, or will be completed by March 31st. A number of the other projects are all in year 2.
And
So the Blue Acres sidewalk, Abercrombie sidewalk, the water project in McFarland's Brook, the only part of that that's in 24, 25 is the design work, and to get it basically to tender. Hopewell, Eureka sidewalks are next year, water meters, Riverton water extension, Hillside chlorination station, the lift station upgrades, the wastewater generator program, are all in next year, Salem wastewater next year, and the conclusion of the flow meters and repairs for the Hopewell sewer. So those are all things that are on the list, but are not going to be completed by March of this year.
yes, and the timing of why we had to do that in August and September is because we need to get ready for budget then, and hopefully we will complete that at the same time every year, that we're able to look at our budget so that we have everything ready for our capital budget. So go ahead, Councillor Bailey.
Okay, thank you. So I guess on this, and maybe I am looking at something different, but I was told that the sidewalks in River John was on our 5-year plan, and now I'm looking and they're not.
I don't,
No,
they're not,
They're
no.
not on the plan. They were evaluated. So anything that's evaluated doesn't necessarily drop off. It's there again. So like one of the things that you've asked for is clarification from the Department of Transportation on whether or not it can even be done, right? So that information would be sought, that would be brought back in the next evaluation process, and then you would decide, council as a whole would decide, okay, should this project be considered or not, type thing. So it's an evolving list. So there are projects that are evaluated on a yearly basis that don't make the 50% plus one, but we don't drop them. They're kept there for evaluation in future years, and then council basically, if there's new information that's added, will evaluate them and vote on them in subsequent years, right? So they were evaluated last year. They did not meet the 50% plus one to move to the financing part of it.
So even though on the list and the survey, we had numerous projects, but only those that met the will of council made it onto this, and that list, they don't get taken off that list, they will stay on that list until either they move onto the budget or they are removed for some reason.
Yeah, the councillor may say, I no longer wish to have that project considered for whatever reason, right? And it would drop off.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Councillor Bailey?
Well, and not for tonight.
Okay. Warden Parker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Going back to the Plymouth sidewalk, and again, it's not because I'm against the project, but when we voted on it, we had a price. And we voted on the different projects depending on their costs. And of course, the cost is, basically doubled since we voted on it. And so we agreed tonight that we would wait until we heard back from the province on our grant application. So do we leave that in at 900,000 regardless of whether the grant comes in or not? Is that what it says here, or how's that work?
You have to have a 5-year plan, but
Right.
all you're agreeing to finance is year one.
And that includes, that includes the 900,000?
No.
No, that's in year two.
This is year one.
okay.
This is 24, 25.
24, 25, it's up to the end of March then of this year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so perhaps we'll know by that time, whether we're getting the grant or not. Okay, thank you, sorry.
Yeah, just to be clear, this isn't for this year one that we're financing here, isn't for the coming year, it's for the year we're in right now.
Perfect year.
One more month to go, yeah.
one thing we've been able to do, hopefully we'll do this quicker in the next coming year, like, we've confirmed better pricing on some of these for year 2, based on, estimates and things that we've gotten to date from consultants and tender pricing, so our year 2 pricing is better than it, would normally be. I think it's probably more accurate.
So Brian, when do you think last year we went through this in August, September. When do you think that we'll go through this exercise for the upcoming budget?
We'd like to do it almost in tandem with the operating budget.
Okay.
Maybe even before the operating budget.
Okay, so prior to the operating budget. Okay. Councillor Turner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In terms of sequencing, how do we go about prioritizing which gets done first? How do we keep all these balls in the air? In terms of sequencing.
Basically, from our perspective, from a staff perspective, what we'll bring you back is a financing plan, right? And it is affordable. Becomes one of the key metrics, right? Can we afford to do them all at once? Do we have all the funding in place for it? So that's probably the biggest metric that we'll bring back to you is affordability and as well as timeframes to get them completed, right? Some of them are multi-year. Some of them may have shorter time spans, things like that. So there's other forces that may extend when they get done, like regulatory approvals, things of that nature.
Okay. So it's a moving, the goalposts will move on this then. It's not static. It'll move throughout the course of the fiscal year. Based on.
They will, yeah, they will. Some projects, when we kind of look at them, we're kind of saying, okay, this project should be done within 1 year. We don't want them extending multiple years, right? Because that creates a lot of additional
counting.
Finance work, things like that. So we also look at them and say, okay, this project, say Project X, needs to be done within the 6-month period of this fiscal year, right? So we tidy it up so there's no lingering payables or things like that. Grants, or it matches grant reporting periods as well. So things like that.
Yep. Okay, any other comments or questions? All right, seeing none, our motion is to approve these capital budgets. Been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. All right, let's move along to deferred business. We had spoken about the Pictou Library funding operations, and no update?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. But
There is no update. The committee hasn't met. They were supposed to meet, but I haven't seen a date for that. So the work is done. It's just ready to be presented to the library committee. So there were a couple of other loose ends they were trying to tidy up, but I haven't heard of a meeting at this point. So
just a housekeeping question. Because it's deferred business, will it stay on the agenda until it's dealt with?
6 months.
Yeah, okay.
it's supposed to, if it's not dealt with within 6 months, come off.
Okay.
The agenda, but
You must be over that now.
We're still within that.
Oh, we are.
Period. But the committee, my understanding was they were supposed to meet. I thought they were going to meet in February, but I didn't see the date. So
Okay? All right, any motions of reconsideration? Motions for reconsideration, seeing none. Community announcements. Go ahead, Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, I just want to shout out to Springville resident Colin Chabasal, who's a veteran. He served 3 tours of duty in Afghanistan. He recently worked, or he competed at the Invictus Games in Whistler, Vancouver. And there's a great article on CBC News that talks about it, and it's just a shout out to Colin. Wonderful thing he did.
Good news story. Go ahead, Warden Parker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to thank whoever, I think it was Chester brought these in, but I want to thank Norman and Rose family for donating these. I had heard from different people that there was a number available, but they're a great book that Norman did on our county and the churches. So I just think we should send a note of thanks to Norman's widow or whatever for that gesture.
Yeah.
And I would ask that staff look after that. Chester knows more about it than I do.
And the other thing, if there's anybody you think that would like 1 or 2 or 14 in a case, let me know and I'll deliver them.
Might as well be in somebody's home.
Yeah. And I'll give an address for you.
I know that we always had one in my house growing up. We always had one. Councillor Boyles.
Yeah, I just want to say in our community, we had our community meeting with Evan was at and out in Lynacy, and the Mounties and the fire department and a retired paramedic, and again Evan, and it made a big difference because now they want to talk, and also the roads are being plowed a lot quicker and things are being done. So I think every community should do the same thing and have a meeting with them.
Go ahead, Sue Ann.
I just wanted to remind everybody that the volunteer nominations are open till February the 28th. And the banquet this year, we've confirmed Amelia Parker to be our entertainment. So.
Oh. Be a good night of... Wow, she's incredible. Any other community announcements? I did not teach her. I wish I could take credit for that. She's amazing. Fleur did. Yeah. She's outstanding. Yes, amazing. All right. Oh, sorry, Councillor Palmer. I would like to say that Bubbles video is quite
That's
amazing.
what I was going to mention, just
Took your thunder.
the Abercrombie rinks in the Craft Hockeyville contest. So anybody who wants to go on, post a story, picture, or a note. You get points for 10 points for a note or for a story, 3 points for a picture up to 5 pictures, and 1 point for a note. So, and the more you get, the better chance you have of going on to the next round. So, we had a couple rallies. We had one last night. Weather wasn't the best, but we had a pretty good turnout, and we're having one on Monday night, this coming Monday night, and we're going to have the final one on March 1st. So we're going to have sleigh rides from 3 to 6, I do believe, free skating from 4 to 6, and then cafe upstairs, and we're going to do video. So anybody can make it, we greatly appreciate it.
I have 2 questions for you. Do you know where you're at in the standings?
No.
You don't know until, and when is it announced?
Closing is March 2nd, and March 15th they'll announce 4 finalists.
Awesome.
How much does complaining about the refs get you for points out there?
What's that?
How much do you get for complaining about reffing out there?
They got to show up. They got to show up. They didn't show up to our game
Those refs
Saturday.
weren't from Thorburn.
Go ahead, Councillor Dewar.
Thank you very much. The other night, I always have Anakin Ish on, and I'm a big fan of Anakin Ish, and I was some pleased to hear Councillor Palmer on there, and he was interviewed for 10 minutes by Ken Farrell. And that's no easy job. You know, they're picking questions out to ask you, and I was really impressed with the way Randy handled himself and how he could answer the question quick. And the only reason you can answer the questions is to have the experience that Randy had at the Ivor McDonald. Yeah.
All right, everybody, thank you for a wonderful meeting, as usual, and we will see you all in a couple weeks. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.